Hello. Hello. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. We're going to talk about Kendrick Lamar and Drake. We're going to be talking about rap tonight. That's pretty much going to be our only subject because there's a lot of this stuff that I want to get into. Um, I am a huge hip hop head, as always been. I've been a hip hop head for my entire adult life and from pretty much all of my childhood. I am so it's going to be an interesting subject because I don't know a lot about either guy. Now, what I mean by I don't know a lot, there were there was a time where I followed pretty much everybody, and and listened to pretty much every album, and that stopped around the time Drake got popular. So I started being a little bit picky with what I listened to, and so for the last decade or so, I would pick and choose albums that I listened to. So I've never heard Drake's entire discography is out of my purview. I listened to his first album and maybe the first mixtape, and I never went back and revisited it. I probably heard a song here and there. Um, it's not for me. His style is not for me. His lyrical ability or whatever is not for me. But Kendrick Lamar is a little bit different. Kendrick Lamar is one of the guys that I found on the blogs in the days of Dat Piff and live mixtapes, and where you used to be able to download a mixtape off of a website. I came across the Kendrick Lamar EP, and he was amazing. And I followed him up until 2017, maybe. I'm going to get into why I stopped listening to Kendrick Lamar, but of the two, I'm more biased towards Kendrick Lamar. That's just being fair. I'm not really here to talk about who won or who's winning because apparently this thing is not over. I am listening I'll listen to Drake's songs, the diss records. I will be able to tell you what's in them. I will be able to evaluate them to a degree. Um, but I'm mostly looking at the how it's reverberating throughout the culture, how it's and how this thing came to be. And that's why I have to say I don't follow everybody because there's so many branches on this tree and so many people who are tangentially related. People who have been dissed in some of these records, um, and people who have been mentioned in these records who I don't know, and I'm not familiar with, and some stuff is going to go over my head, and I don't know the entanglements that some of these guys have gotten themselves into. But I have been paying attention to quite a bit of this stuff. So I'm not completely off the block. I'm not completely in the weeds here. I'm not stepping up to talk about something I don't know anything about. But I will admit that I don't know much about Drake's career. I'm just not a fan of Drake. So a lot of the artists, that have been mentioned, I'm just not that interested in. I just don't care about them. So I mean, it is what it is. But we will be able to talk about this. AJ3 says, "Have you ever heard about According to Hip Hop or Rap Roundtable?" I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I ever heard of either one of those things. Like, I really don't listen to hip hop discussion, really. Um, Sometimes I will, but it's very, very rare. I think since I really have detached myself from the culture, I don't really follow it that much, you know? So that's just kind of how it is. I detached myself. I kind of moved away from it. I jump back here and there when something is happening or when I'm interested, but I don't really like follow. like the Joe Budden podcast or Drink Champs or anything like that. So if there's like a YouTube channel or something like that that may um, follow this stuff a little bit more closely, they're probably going to be more expert, they have greater expertise than I will. And there's plenty of channels out there that are trying to break down the beef by talking all about the individual characters and their branches and how these characters work. And I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to talk about that because I'm not really a fan of a lot of these people. And there's a lot of subliminals that have been thrown around for decades. There's a lot of artists that have claimed Drake has stole songs, but I have no idea who they are, and I'm not going to remember. So it's just easy to say generally Drake is not very well liked, and he has never been very well liked in the rap space. Drake came in, and a lot of people didn't like him. Very similar to when Kanye West came in, people was kind of like, ugh. There was an audible cringe when Kanye West came in because he was wearing pink polo shirts and he was doing the conscious stuff and the underground stuff because he was doing stuff like Dilated Peoples and that kind of thing. He was working with Common a lot, and people thought, okay, that's Kanye's lane. That's what he's going to do. When Drake came in, he was basically doing the guy who did hooks. So he was singing hooks for records, and he would have a verse here and there, but he was mostly the guy who did hooks on songs. And I thought, okay, he's just going to be the hook guy. I didn't pay attention for a decade or whatever, and he's one of the biggest selling rappers of all time. That's pretty much what happened. And I have heard album 1 and maybe half of that, and I didn't like it and it moved on. So I don't think it's fair to say that all of this started with certain people taking subliminal shots. I think it's just a general dislike of Drake. Hip hop at the time was still a very hardcore industry. It was still run by a lot of street dudes who was talking about street stuff, and you had to have the ear of the streets. You could have the ear of the radio, and that's where a guy like Drake would come in. He was the guy who would sing your hooks to make it more palatable for the radio, to make it more palatable for girls, and that kind of thing. A lot of people used him for that. Even people who are dissing him now, like Rick Ross, used him for that. Aston Martin music, great song. Um, they canceled Chrisette Michelle, but excellent song. It's her and Drake and Rick Ross. And there's other crap. How about say other crap? Other hooks that he's done too. I'm on one. Other stuff he's done for Lil Wayne. But I think a general dislike for him came from people thought that his music was for teenage girls, and they saw that being his demographic. That he makes music for. There's always been a negative towards making music for women. If you make music for women, that seems to be a bad thing, even though it's not really. But that's a lane you should basically just stay in. The problem is too many guys want to do both. They want to make music for women, and they also want to be tough guys. You really can't get away with doing both. There's not a lot of people who can get away with doing both, but people try. If Drake would have just stayed into a different realm, he probably wouldn't be in the situation that he's in right now. Now, the reason this thing is blowing up, and I'm looking at it, I'm saying to myself, man, what happened to this guy? What is happening with Drake? What is going on with Drake? Before we even get to talking about Kendrick Lamar, like what is going on with Drake? He looks so wildly different than when he first started. I noticed it's been 15 years or whatever, 16 years, but the way he presents himself is so different. He's trying to be rougher, I think, tougher than he really is. I know his success is kind of going to his head, so he's a little bit more egotistical than he used to be. It's an interesting scenario to just like this is the most Drake I've ever seen and most Drake I've ever listened to. if we're being honest. Like listening to these diss records is the most Drake I've ever listened to. So I'm sitting here, trying to digest this stuff, and not to jump ahead too far, but when they start calling him a culture vulture, it's like, man, that became pretty obvious. You know, he basically dissolved in water. But I'll talk about that later. Um, so what's going on with Drake, and I'm seeing this a lot, is I equate it to basically what happened to Ja Rule. You know, Ja Rule floated around for a while. He got really, really popular making songs for women, doing the sing song rap thing, the rap R&B blends with like Ashanti and different artists like that. And there was always a grumbling about it. There was always people who were kind of like, I don't like all this, I cried, you cry, we cry. There's always people who didn't like that stuff. There was no shortage of people willing to call him out at the time because, again, the game was a little bit more street, and the radio loved BET all the time. The radio pushed him all the time, and it wasn't until 50 Cent came out that everybody all of a sudden was like, "Oh yeah, I hate Ja Rule. I've always hated Ja Rule. I was never a Ja Rule fan." And you see that stuff going on right now with Drake, where there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I always thought Drake was corny." It's kind of like, the guy didn't get to be that popular, and everybody hated him. You know, you know, there's of course going to be some people who never liked him. I'm one of them. But there's going to be a contingent of people who are flipping because he's in conflict with Kendrick Lamar. And so there's always going to be this contingent that didn't like Drake. And I'm not familiar with his discography. But I know that there's been a lot of subliminal shots being thrown back and forth for years. I know that this beef goes way back to the Control verse, which Kendrick Lamar did. I don't know, what was this, like 2017 maybe? Where he basically threw out a random challenge to see if anybody was going to go after him because he's a competitive MC and he's highly competent at it. And there was a couple of people who did like Control remixes and all this kind of stuff. And it was fun, but nothing really sparked out of it. And from my understanding, what happened, and please, correct me on this, is that Drake and J. Cole, another artist I was a fan of until about 2016-ish, J. Cole, found him on the blogs too. I'm trying to remember what his first tape was called. Friday Night Lights? No, the one before it, Friday Night Lights. Um, Friday Night Lights was the second tape I saw. So I don't remember what it's called. It had Lights Please on it. And it had a couple other joints on it that I really liked. Very down to earth guy. Loved Friday Night Lights. Really didn't really care for his albums like his tradition. The Warm Up, yes. The Warm Up, that's it. Didn't really care for his commercially released albums, but I loved his mixtapes. I thought he was like a really good mixtape rapper. Didn't see him becoming extremely popular in terms of radio and all that kind of stuff, but he is, and I'm very glad to see it. But I kind of tuned out on J. Cole too. But from my understanding, this recent brouhaha began with First Person Shooter, which is a song between J. Cole and Drake. And it was supposed to be J. Cole, Drake, and Kendrick Lamar. From my understanding, Kendrick Lamar was requested to be on the song. He refused. And then he changed his mind and sent a verse, and Drake rejected the verse. Now, from my understanding, what ended up happening is Drake then dissed Kendrick Lamar in the song. And well, it was subliminal. It was a Kendrick subliminal. But it all became around this concept around what they call the big three. This also comes from First Person Shooter because J. Cole mentioned that it was supposed to be the big three, and Kendrick Lamar was mentioned in the track because he was supposed to be on it. Maybe J. Cole thought he was going to be on it. Drake then decided he was going to take some subliminal shots at Kendrick Lamar in the song. Drake, of course, in the song was complaining about being overlooked, and he put himself on a level of Michael Jackson because apparently this is a thing where he's got like a certain number of number one singles and he's approaching Michael Jackson. Um, and so he put himself on the same level as Michael Jackson. So you could say this is the beginning of this most recent blow up, the most recent drama. This led to the Like That song, which was a reply from Kendrick Lamar. It was also subliminal, where he called Drake a goofy and felt like First Person Shooter was a sneak diss, which it was. He said, "Fuck the big three, it's just big me," and said something about I think he said his cat's going to see Pet Cemetery, and then he says Prince outlived Mike Jack. So at that point, everybody knows that he's responding directly to Drake. So this led to a lot of people jumping on the track. Kanye jumped on it. Future was on it. It's his song. Metro Boomin is the producer. Metro Boomin is the one who invited Kendrick Lamar to the song. So now it's becoming a big thing because, as the internet called it, the Avengers formed. All these people who secretly didn't like Drake started dissing him. Rick Ross, Kanye, a bunch of other people came out of nowhere, started making records dissing Drake. So it got kind of weird, and it seemingly came out of nowhere. Again, I wasn't paying attention, so I don't know how much this stuff was brewing. Last I checked, Drake was one of the ghostwriters for Kanye West. It was that was an interesting thing for me because I remember Kanye talking glowingly about Kendrick. After all of this happened, J. Cole released his diss record that he then retracted. But he had dissed Kanye, and so Kanye dissed him and said his music was boring and that his music keep pussies dry. I wonder who wrote that for Kanye West. But Drake saw that something. J. Cole was. I'm on the fence about J. Cole. Yes, it's bitch made for him to drop a diss record then apologize. Yeah, that's bitch made. At the same time, he's the one nigga that was reading the room, right? He probably looked at this thing and was like, something's brewing, something's going on, and I don't want to be a part of it. Like and he's looking really smart now, but at the time I was like, what a bitch ass nigga. Like you don't diss people and then, back up out of it. So something tells me that he probably got a phone call or an email or something to that effect and was told, brother, don't get involved with this. Just chill. Just chill. Don't say nothing. And then so he retracted his diss record. He's still getting dissed. He's still getting dissed by pretty much everybody, but he's not replying to anybody. And he basically said that the energy was off. And I thought that's very peculiar considering what the energy is now. And hip hop is built on competition. Everybody wants to be the best rapper. The only way to prove it is on wax, and you actually battle each other. He can't talk that I'm the best rapper shit anymore because now when stuff got real, he backed out. Okay, that's fine, whatever. So everybody's surprised Drake stepped up, and he decided that his issues with Kendrick Lamar, he was going to go ahead and make them public. Now, of course, for me, I'm like, why you don't like Kendrick Lamar? I don't know what's going on. Apparently, they got some issues from way back, and so Drake drops Push Ups, where the song is direct about Kendrick, but it's alluding to basically Kendrick having a terrible contract where he has to give up 50%. I think that's the idea of his publishing or something like that. But in the song, he talked about Kendrick being a big stepper with small feet and how he's a little guy. That Big Steppers was a flop, and that Kendrick Lamar raps for white people because he had did the song with Taylor Swift. That there is no big three. He was right about that. He dissed The Weeknd, called him gay. I didn't know nothing about The Weeknd. I had to look him up. I just knew that he was the guy that WWE is absolutely obsessed with. And, you know, I never listened to The Weeknd before in my life. He mentioned Whitney, who at the time I was kind of like, that name sounds familiar, but it's Kendrick's baby mama, his fiance, and alludes to her fucking his bodyguard. That was one of the things that he did in this track, which is of course Lipstick Alley stuff. And of course, he spent a lot of time talking about how he's more successful than Kendrick. And then to continue the theme of the Michael Jackson and Prince, he says, "What's a prince to a king? He a son, nigga," which is a great line. That's a great line. So people were like, "Oh shit, Drake then came out swinging. This record is not bad. It's direct." You know, talked about Kendrick Lamar getting extorted and all this kind of stuff. It's I was like, "Yo, this is not bad." Now apparently this was almost a month ago because it took forever for Kendrick Lamar to respond. I think somebody told me that it took him about 3 weeks to respond. And that 3 weeks, Drake dropped another record called Tailor Made. This is the one that he did the AI voice for Tupac and Snoop Dogg. And this was basically telling you that the West Coast was gassing up Kendrick Lamar. And that's what the whole point of it was. That Kendrick Lamar is supposed to be like the West Coast savior. And I want to go into this a little bit. Let's pause right here. I know some people listening to the sound of my voice are going to be from California. I'm going to tell you a little bit about California that I don't like. I don't like the permanent little brother attitude of a lot of West Coast rappers. And they've had it since the very beginning. You know, they have this idea that everybody hates the West Coast. Everybody's biased against the West Coast. Everybody hates them. They always overlooked. Nobody wants to take them seriously. And it's been that way since NWA. I'm reading a book on NWA right now where there's Ice Cube is still in there complaining about the way they were treated by East Coast media. Of course, Bow Down, the record from the West Side Connection, was a diss. And they also had another diss record for New York, for all the critics in New York, all this kind of stuff they had going on. And it's a permanent fixture of West Coast hip hop that they have to have a West Coast savior. Every few years, whoever comes out as the West Coast savior, they essentially throw them to Dr. Dre, and then Dr. Dre tries to make something of it. And it happens every single time. And they did it with Game. They did it with Kendrick's the most recent one, unless there's one more recent than him. The Game was a big one for a while. Not so much like Tyga and YG, but there's always been a guy who is supposed to be like the West Coast representative. For a long time, it was Snoop. You know, Snoop was just kind of like a constant. Snoop could just go anywhere and do anything. Everybody loved Snoop, but it was everybody else who had this little brother attitude about being from the West Coast. And it's the beautiful thing about this record, this tailor-made disc record, is that it plays into that Kendrick Lamar is the guy who is supposed to represent the West Coast now. And it shows also that Drake is familiar with Kendrick Lamar and his influences. Like a lot of West Coast MCs, he looks up to Tupac and Snoop. So he used the voices of Tupac and Snoop, you know, to basically gas Kendrick Lamar up. It's like they're giving him a pep talk. They call him a bitch for me and all this kind of stuff, you know? And at first I hated it. At first I did not like this song. I thought it was garbage. I was like, this is trash. What the fuck? But then I thought about it for a minute and I was like, you know what? I like the creativity of it. You know, I like the fact that they're playing into that insecurity of West Coast rappers, that they, for some odd reason, just happen to have all the time. And it's just like multi-generational. Like we're 30 years, 40 years into West Coast being integrated into hip hop, and they're still running around. The South still does it too, but the West is the worst with it. Like the South at some point stopped caring, but the West Coast is like permanently the West Coast savior. We don't get enough credit. Everybody hates the West Coast. Blah blah blah. Like not really, not really. I don't think that that's too true. I don't think that's true. I think that the West Coast produces less really good artists, but I don't think it's, a bias. That's just you can probably count on one hand in the last 15 years how many people came out of the West Coast that was actually like really, really good. And yeah, you got guys like Don Kennedy who's pretty damn good. Here's a guy who did an album, shit. The Problem was pretty good too. He's from the West Coast. There's some guys over there that did good. They just didn't have any staying power. They didn't stick around. But he was playing into that with TaylorMade, right? And he also started talking about Kendrick being scared of him. Basically said that Kendrick was camera shy. He also addressed the stuff about the underage girl, like say he liked underage girls or something like that, which came from a situation in 2017 where Drake had like an underage girl on stage. I think he kissed her or whatever, and she was like 17 or whatever the hell. And that pretty much blew everything away. So anything about Drake liking little girls is going to end up having some level of validity to it. And also Drake alluding to that Taylor Swift controls Kendrick Lamar's career, and she's the one holding him up, and all this kind of stuff. And this was an interesting record. TaylorMade was interesting. Very creative. Didn't hit immediately for me, but I warmed up to it. I thought that it was very creative. And then Euphoria happens. Euphoria drops like 3 or 4 days ago. And to me, it was a nuclear bomb. It's one of the best diss records ever released. Euphoria was, and the crazy thing is, this is mostly a warning. Euphoria is a really great record, but it's mostly a warning. He in the song Kendrick Lamar calls Drake a famous actor, which I thought was hilarious, and it actually plays into his theme that Drake is basically acting. And he said he's going to be able to predict his angle, so he knew he's going to go with the family route. He says that he makes music that electrifies whites, while Drake makes music that pacifies whites. He called Drake a lame again. Says Pac was turning in his grave. Said he hurt Drake's feelings. Which is of course going back to first person shooter where Kendrick Lamar didn't want to do the verse at first, and then maybe he changed his mind. Then he said in the song that he prays that these guys are his real friends, basically Drake and Cole. If not, he's YNW Melly, which I thought was a really good punchline once I learned who YNW Melly is. Once I learned who YNW Melly is, I was like, okay, that's a good punch. And he even says in the track numerous times that it's a friendly fade. Let's keep it that way. It's just competition. It was very good. To me, it was clear that Kendrick Lamar, in the 3 weeks that it took for him to reply to TaylorMade, he wrote all 3 of his disses at that same time. It became clear to me almost immediately. They follow the same theme. He even uses the "Have You Ever." Let's play "Have You Ever." He uses that twice, back-to-back songs. So that means it was on his mind. He was thinking about it, and he's leading up to something. Now, I thought Euphoria was the end of it. I was like, okay, there's nothing Drake is going to be able to say out of his mouth that's going to be able to top this. Because Kendrick, He's a better MC. He's got better flows. He's got better content. He's more creative. He's more authentic. Everything is just leaning towards Kendrick in terms of rap. It's over. Like, why bother? Kendrick then doubled down with 616 in LA when he mentions that somebody lying, saying basically that there's some lies floating around out there. And he apparently already knew what Drake was going to try to say. He dissed the industry in this song. Well, he's not the first rapper to do that, but it leads to the idea that Drake is the industry. Because Drake always touts his achievements. So, that kind of gives you the idea that it's Kendrick versus the industry, which they play into when we get to the later records. Yeah, Not Like Us was clearly not written at the same time, but at least Euphoria and 616 were written around the same time, right? Roughly. Because they have the same theme. And Meet the Grams, because Meet the Grams came out way too quickly after Family Matters. So it's clear to me he wrote at least those 3 records around the same time. And Euphoria was a warning shot. And 616 was doubling down and also telling him not to do this. Telling Drake not to make it personal. He's saying it again. He's telling Drake, hey, it was fun until you start putting money in the street, looking for dirt. Sorry, my life is boring. Again, this is his second warning. He started talking about Drake having Twitter bots to boost his engagement. The 616 cover art, I think it wasn't the cover art for this. It was a cover art for a different song, and they got removed. It was obvious when you listen to Euphoria and 616, they came out back to back, that he was telling Drake, I know what you're going to do. Don't do it. Don't put that record out. Don't do it. He's telling this man not to do it. He's warning this man not to put that song out. And Drake does it anyway. Drake puts out Family Matters, where he disses A$AP Rocky, Kendrick Lamar, Kanye, The Weeknd, Future. He mentions Future. He didn't really diss Future. He dissed Metro Boomin. He said that Kendrick Lamar has a ghostwriter, Baby King. He claims he fucked Rihanna. Called A$AP Rocky a mid rapper. He should stick to modeling. I personally like A$AP Rocky more than Drake, so I don't really see why he won't smoke with A$AP Rocky, but whatever. He called The Weeknd gay again, which is hilarious. He mentioned Ozempic and, discussing Rick Ross, saying that Rick Ross is jealous of him. Also mentioned that Rick Ross is a corrections officer, which is factual information, which is why, I was stunned he's still around. He blames Metro Boomin for this whole thing. He thinks that Metro Boomin basically has been the one to influence Future to get on this diss record, even though I don't think Future was dissing him. I don't think Future was dissing him. He was just on the song. In Euphoria, Kendrick Lamar says, that Drake sent a cease and desist on the Like That record. He said, oh, what, you didn't like that record? I thought that was slick. Drake, of course, denies it and then flips the Tupac estate issue, because in Kendrick and Taylor Made, he was forced to pull that song down because Tupac's brother in the Tupac estate thought that it infringed on Tupac's intellectual property and had the song removed. And Drake is saying basically that Kendrick Lamar set that up. I don't believe that that's necessary. I just don't. I don't think that anybody needed to tell the Tupac estate that he shouldn't be involved with this. But, whatever. He dissed Pharrell again. I don't know what the issue with Drake and Pharrell is. I didn't bother to look it up. Pharrell is not a rapper, so I don't care. And for some reason, Drake owns Pharrell's chains. Like he bought Pharrell's chains. I don't know what that was about. He talked about Kendrick's boss robbing his daddy, which is a fact. Kendrick talked about this in public. It's not, new information. He says, fuck the big three, it's Big D, which is continuing that theme. He talked about their sons being light-skinned and their sons should be friends. That, of course, led me to, people were posting pictures. And I saw Kendrick Lamar's son, and he's light, but he's not nearly as light as Adonis. I mean, come on. Let's be a little bit chill here. But he basically says that Kendrick Lamar doesn't want to be seen with like light-skinned folks or mixed race people and all this kind of stuff, but he's got a mixed clean or whatever. The race issue, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I'm not really a big fan of the whole race angle. Then he gets to the nuclear bomb of the situation, the domestic violence accusation. Say he put his hands on his girl, he beat up Whitney. Basically said that Whitney was fucking some guy named Dave Free, and that one of Kendrick's kids might not be his, and that Kendrick wants acceptance from whites, and that he says maybe I got it twisted, maybe I'm Prince and you Mike, which is interesting. And basically says that Top Dog controls his career, telling him what to do, and basically Top Dog forced him to do the record with Taylor Swift. Interesting. I don't know any black people who listen to Taylor Swift, by the way. I don't know any. And this was probably the best performed song I've ever heard from Drake, in terms of until the end, where I felt like he just had to get out what he was saying. But basically they hired a crisis management team to cover up that, Kendrick Lamar was involved with domestic violence. He also asked, like, why are you in New York? Like, why are you living in New York when you're Mr. Compton? Which is a question that was not answered. He's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. He posed the question, but there was no answer to the question. I'm guessing he's saying that he's living in New York to escape this whole issue, but we don't know when this domestic violence issue actually occurred. Now, again, Kendrick Lamar had told him basically this is a lie and don't do that. Don't put this information out there. It's not true. And about 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes after Family Matters, which Drake went through the trouble of putting together a music video for, it got curb stomped by Meet the Grams. Family Matters is a legitimately good record. In terms of a diss record, it was good. It was very well performed. It was very well produced. I think, of the Drake diss records, it was certainly the best. He was building up to this. He had laid the seeds. It was good storytelling. He laid the seeds that there was something that was going to make people look at Kendrick Lamar differently. And if he's a domestic abuser, that is absolutely true. It's the end of his career if he is, by the way. But he denied it from the beginning, and basically ignored it, and then decided to drop Meet the Grams. Now, Meet the Grams is an absolutely mean record. It's very creative. Because he's dissing Drake at the end, of course. As he goes into it, he's dissing Drake. But he's doing it in a way that is such a unique angle, where he's writing letters to various members of Drake's family. Like, he's writing a letter to Adonis, and then the unnamed, unknown, potential 11-year-old daughter of Drake. Both about challenging, and this is another thing that I liked about Kendrick's performances and his lyrical ability, is that he didn't just keep it to Drake is lame, Drake is whack, and Drake is a pedo. He also has other layers to it. He doesn't think Drake is a good father. He doesn't think Drake is a good man. He doesn't like him as a person. And that continues here. As he's talking to the children, he's challenging Drake's fatherhood. You know, his father, Dennis Graham. He's also challenging the way Drake is being a father. He's criticizing the way Drake was raised. And even funnier that he mentioned that Drake got pissed on, which is hilarious. He mentioned that Drake was a degenerate, that he's into escorts and drugs and gambling, all these immoral things, which there's a lot of guys into escorts, drugs, and gambling, you know. So that was not bad. It was interesting that he mentioned Dennis Graham, Drake's father, and basically saying that Drake parades him around, much like what Pusha T said. But and here he's saying that he parades Dennis Graham around to sort of prove his blackness. That Dennis Graham is his black card. That becomes a big issue in this feud as an underlying element of this feud is Drake's blackness. We'll talk about that when I get to that point. And he said you should ask for more paper. And then Kendrick goes into how the industry and OVO are full of sex offenders, pedophiles, and perverts. And it gets dark at that point. You know, like it gets really dark right there. When he starts talking about how there's pedophiles on staff at OVO and you know, these guys like underage girls and all this kind of stuff. That's sick. Right? Now, I was disturbed by that. That was disturbing. I didn't like that. That's a uniquely dark record. He also says that he wanted to know what was underneath Drake. What's underneath all of his ego and all of that stuff. And basically that Drake is immature, he's insecure in his blackness, he's insecure in his masculinity. And he lied on Kendrick, who was the only person who was willing to help him. So this is a surgical, psychological breakdown of Drake. It is a profoundly mean record. It is profoundly mean. It's almost super ugly mean. You know, like super ugly is a mean record. And when somebody puts out something that's mean, it tells you that you have crossed the line with them. And clearly, again, Kendrick Lamar gave him 2 warnings to not do this. So it's fair. You know, unlike in the Jay-Z and Nas situation where Jay-Z saw that as his trump card and he was building up to that, basically daring Nas not to respond because if he did, he's going to talk about the condoms on the baby seat. Kendrick Lamar was like, don't mention my family, don't talk about my family, keep it, you know, competitive, but don't go too far. Drake was like, I'm already committed to the bit. He literally said that in Family Matters, which clearly was written after he heard the other records. He had already committed. He had already put it out there that this is the angle he was going with. He couldn't back out. You know, he could not back out. Once he had already put it out there that he was going in that direction, he had to go. He can't pump fake the audience. So he got trumped. The battle was very much over at that point. And it's been unkind since then. Now They're Not Like Us, which came out the next day, is celebratory. It is Kendrick Lamar playing on the record, continuing to call Drake a pedophile, continuing to talk about the pedophilia within OVO and how there's sex offenders in OVO. But the interesting thing, 2 interesting things. One, he talked about Drake having sex with Lil Wayne's girlfriend while Lil Wayne was in jail, which I videos about that came around, and it turns out that the girl had had sex with Drake before she met Lil Wayne or something like that. But the girl did have sex with both Drake and Lil Wayne, and he did get a tattoo of Lil Wayne on him, kind of as an apology. The girl's name is Tammy Torres, and she became famous because Wayne rapped about her. Hoes gonna be hoes, so I couldn't blame Tammy, you know. And then the spinning back fist of the Not Like Us record is that Drake uses black people for credibility, and he called him a colonizer. And he basically talked about how Drake uses the city of Atlanta to gain credibility in terms of blackness. He uses Future for the club. He used Lil Baby for his lingo. He used 21 Savage for a false street cred and all this kind of stuff. And it's an absolutely brutal record. It's brutal. But it's the Kendrick Lamar part of this feud has had plenty of memes coming out of it. And this is the most memeable record yet. It's upbeat, it's direct, and it's fun. It's a fun song. Not Like Us is a fun track. It's produced by DJ Mustard. Fun record. Unlike the dark Alchemist produced Meet the Grams, you know. Um, and basically he's doing a victory lap on Not Like Us. And he's curb stomping Drake. Now, before I go into something else, I went through the songs. One of the things that was talked about is Drake making the illusion about Kendrick Lamar rapping like he's trying to free the slaves. A lot of people really flipped about that. I don't think that it's a fair critique. I don't think it's a fair critique. I think the next line in the song explains what he means, and so people are taking it out of context on purpose, right? He basically saying that Kendrick Lamar, oh, you rapping like you're trying to free the slaves, but you don't plant money trees in Compton. That was the reason he mentioned it that way. And then Kendrick did a great job flipping it on him. But the internet turned against Drake a lot when he said that. That's how he views black people. It's like the very next line explains what he's saying. Basically, you're supposed to be like this big black activist and all this kind of stuff. What do you do for your hood? But nobody cares about that. They would rather take this line out of context and run with it. Now, the thing is, if Drake was a competent MC, Kendrick Lamar has so much shit out there that you could use. Now, before we move on, let's talk about this. I've talked about all of the records. Rap battles typically have a pretty good formula. About a third of it is obviously true things. Things that can be proven by using Google, or you've seen a picture, or it was written in a book. Obviously true things. And then it's 50% bullshit. There's going to be a bunch of I'm going to murder you, I'm going to murder your kids, blah, 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 a bunch of that shit. Just garbage. And then the rest of it, I think it's like 20% left, could go either way. The fact that Kendrick Lamar is a domestic abuser could go either way. It's entirely possible that he could be. The fact that Drake has a secret daughter can go either way. We don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's likely that he made the same mistake twice and put out and had another secret child. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's likely for you to make the same mistake twice. Um, I'm not going to say that either one of them are playing Jedi mind tricks and they're trapping each other. There's people on the Drake side saying, "Oh yeah, the fake daughter is a trap. That was bad information that Kendrick got, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. If the fake daughter is a fake story, then Meet the Grams, a lot of it is invalidated. But the record is still very mean. You just have to delete the verse about the daughter. You know, um, the idea that Drake is a pedo is very dark. The fact that OVO has pedophiles in it, extremely dark. The thing is, Drake knew that this was coming. He knew that they were going to talk about the underage girl stuff. He knew it when he wrote it in Tailor Made. He knew they were going to mention that. And he's betting on people just not believing it. I think Kendrick Lamar is leaning a lot on the stuff that's going on with Diddy and L.A. Reid and a lot of label executives and people having this heightened paranoia about pedos in the entertainment industry. Um, he's using that to his advantage. So there's going to be a lot of made up shit in rap battles. It's going bulk of the rap battle is going to be bullshit. It is what it is. The key is to mix things that could possibly be true. But these guys have gone so far into the realm of you're a fucking criminal. Well, no, you're a pedo. Like you beat your wife and you're a pedophile. It's like, whoa. Like, this is where I tweeted out that they're getting into dogfight territory. Like they're into, this is the Goku versus Majin Vegeta situation that they're headbutting each other in midair at this point. That's how nasty this thing has gotten. And it's crazy that these dudes have been in the industry together for a long time and they're just now addressing this stuff. You can't tell me Kendrick thought this guy was a pedo and running around with pedophiles for years and didn't say anything. You can't tell me Drake knew that this guy was beating up his girlfriend and he never said anything. So it's been very entertaining. It's been extremely entertaining. But I don't think this thing has been competitive since Euphoria came out. Now, Meet the Family Matters, really good record. And I think against most rappers, that would be Drake would have cleaned them pretty good. It'd have been a good fight. But Euphoria is a very strong record. Not Like Us is a very strong record. Meet the Grams is absolutely nasty. Everybody is now taking the interesting bits is now everybody's trying to take everything Drake does out of context. Drake has for years people have laughed at how Drake would go in the DMs of some girl on Instagram, just as she's becoming famous or right before she gets famous. He'll be right there trying to be her friend. And people are now trying to say that that's predatory and all this kind of stuff. Him being a weirdo and all this kind of, it's like, whoa, the internet flipped on this guy way too quickly. They flipped on him very quickly. I'm not surprised though. So those are the records. I've been very entertained with them. Drake is a better MC than I thought he was. He's much better than when I first heard him. I still don't believe anything that he says. There are things that Kendrick Lamar said about him that are obviously true. Obviously true. Drake being is a blank slate, and this is unfortunate, but he can't help it. He's mixed race, but he was raised in Canada by his Jewish family. He was raised in Toronto, which to my knowledge has no unique style or scene of hip hop at all. So he had no real choice but to go to the United States to get that flavor. You know, he really didn't have much of a choice. Like, who are the most notable rappers from Toronto? The only one I know is Cardinal Official, you know, the Jamaican guy who made like Maxine, oh Miss Maxine. That was like in 2000. I couldn't tell you another rapper from Toronto. So it's like, do they even have like a hip hop scene in Toronto? What is it like? But that's what Drake was supposed to bring. He was supposed to bring what is hip hop in Toronto. Because that's what everybody did when they were the first person to come out from their area. When you first saw Nelly, everybody's like, okay, St. Louis? All right, what the hell does St. Louis have? You know, what's their culture like? And you see it as somewhat Southern to a degree, you know? It's Southern tinged, you know? But Toronto, you know, it's a blank slate. Nobody knows have any fucking idea what's in Toronto in terms of hip hop. Nobody knows. But when Drake got in, he got in through Southern rappers. And so he leaned more towards that style and that manner of dress and that lingo. And over the years, of course, he's mutated into basically copying a bunch of other rappers. He's a swag thief. He's a swagger jacker, you know? Uh, you know who else was a swagger jacker? Jay-Z. Jay-Z. And it was the same situation. Like as I got to listening to all the songs and taking notes and stuff like that, I said, man, Drake made the exact same decision and the exact same mistake that Jay-Z made. He had something that he thought was going to be the ender. That if I drop this, he's going to lose fans. It's over. His credibility is going to be shot. It's over. So he dropped the whole domestic violence thing, and absolutely nobody believed it. And nobody believed it. He built his entire battle around one factoid that he believes that Kendrick Lamar beat up his girlfriend and that Kendrick Lamar is a cuck. Neither one of which he has proven. And it doesn't really matter anyway, but neither one of which people believe. Nobody believes it. That was a mistake. Jay-Z baited Nas into that battle under the belief that if he dropped that he fucked Nas' baby mama, that was going to make people lose faith in Nas, and that was going to be it. It didn't work. When you only got one good Sunday punch, somebody kick out of your finisher, what you got now? His only option is to double down or go in a different direction. He built the entire battle around, I'm going to say this nigga domestically abused his wife. And everybody else just looked and was like, I don't buy that. I don't believe that. And that was it for him. Now, the whole thing about Drake liking young girls, people believe it. And maybe they believe it because Kendrick said it, but they believe it. And so Drake is in trouble. He's in trouble. Now, is he going to end his career? No. No. It didn't end R. Kelly's career. You know, R. Kelly still gets played on the radio today. R. Kelly still gets played in the club today. It ain't going to be the end of Drake's career. Yeah, not likely at all. But this is the Jay-Z and Nas of this generation. I will say that. It is that battle. It's gotten intensely personal. They've been baiting each other for a while. But unlike Jay-Z and Nas, I just didn't follow it. I'm not a fan of Drake. So I haven't been following all the little jabs here and there. I thought they were friends. I thought they had did a bunch of songs together. Apparently, they've never done a song together. And First Person Shooter was supposed to be the first song they was going to do together. And Kendrick shot him down and said he didn't want to do it. So I was wrong about that. At least I think I am. Now, Drake being a deadbeat dad and just a horrible human being who likes to use his fame to take advantage of struggling artists and underage, or in some cases of age women. I know he was in the DMs of that Tyla, the very fine, oh, that girl fine, South African girl who made that one song. They calling her Baby Rihanna or something like that. He was in her DMs almost immediately. But she's an adult. She's like 23 or something. So that's becoming, people are believing that Drake is a degenerate, which doesn't really matter if he is or isn't, because most rappers are degenerates. I mean, it is what it is. Kendrick Lamar, again, if Drake was a competent MC, he's got so much hypocrisy floating around in the stuff that he's got going on that you could have stuck just to his hypocrisy. And if you look, the one thing that I liked about Jay-Z and Nas is that Jay-Z was a Nas fan, right? He listened to Nas's albums. He knew how to take apart Nas albums because he listened to them. I don't really think Drake listened to Kendrick Lamar, because there are songs where Kendrick Lamar talked about how he was jealous of Drake's success, which Drake could have used in a battle. He's calling Drake a pedo. Kendrick Lamar is friends with Kodak Black, who is in that guy like a convicted rapist. Like, you had Kendrick Lamar running around with a crown of thorns on his head like he was Jesus. He's in Not Like Us speaking in tongues pretty much about, how Drake needs to run for his life and he beat him with a Bible or some more shit. Okay, they did Poetic Justice. I knew they did something together, because I was about to say it's not possible that they could have been, they only did one song. I couldn't remember Poetic Justice, by the way. I know it was on Good Kid, Mad City, but I don't. It's the Janet Jackson sample, right? Yeah. Anyway, Kendrick Lamar is the one of the proteges for Dr. Dre, who was sued for rape, and he beat bitches. Like, there's so many things that you could talk about in terms of Kendrick Lamar's circle. Like, Kendrick Lamar's circle is not righteous. Kendrick Lamar is not righteous. There's so many things that Drake could have used if he was a competent MC to go after Kendrick Lamar. He just didn't do. Now it's at the point where, remember when Jay-Z made Blueprint 2, and he did the diss record on there, and he was talking about Nas being a hypocrite. It was too late for anybody to care. Ether had already happened. He had a good point about Nas, saying, is it black girl lost a shorty owe you for ice? That's a great point. But it's made too late. Like, it came out and people were kind of like, ooh, that's a good point. But he still got ethered. It was interesting. It was interesting. And Drake could have worked a little bit harder. I think that he believed his success and his fan base would push him forward. The machine that's behind him. Because Drake is so big at this point, he's a machine. He is. Some people have said he's an industry plant. He might be. I don't, whatever. But Drake has a machine behind him. He's got like an army of ghostwriters too, for God's sake. Nobody can find, you know, you can find plenty of stuff. Somebody had to listen to some fucking Kendrick Lamar albums. And the thing about it is, when it comes to Kendrick, is it is hard to battle him, is because when you are a introspective rapper, and this is what, you know, DeViz is talking about, Mr. Morale. Kendrick Lamar is an introspective rapper. He talks about what he thinks a lot. He talks about the things that he goes through a lot. That helps him connect with his audience. It's hard to diss that guy because he has already shared a lot of his insecurities. He has already shared a lot of his hypocrisy. He has already shared a lot of the things that you would go after if you were battling him. That's difficult. You know, that's hard to do. But it's not impossible, because it's not really what you say, it's how you say it. You know, you can mention some stuff that Kendrick already put out there, but if you put it if you craft it on a tight beat, in a witty and funny way, people will go with it. And even though they already know it, it will be funny. Like Cameron, right? Cameron, his whole diss record against 50 Cent was just him saying Curtis, which is 50 Cent's name, right? And everybody knows the fucking guy's name is, but it's the way that Cameron is saying it. Curtis! And it was funny. It turned it into a meme. He memeing on the dude's name. Jadakiss, when he was dissing 50 Cent, you got shot 9 times. Like, your first album was about you getting shot. What's your second album about? Did you you didn't get shot again? So what's your second album about? Like that is it's such an interesting element to it, that a lot of it is in the artistry. So when people started saying, like, I saw a lot of the Drake fans, they were saying Kendrick, his disses were weak. A lot of this stuff is stuff that Pusha T already said, but he didn't say it this way. Like, he didn't say it this way. Meet the Grams versus Story of Adidon. Like, that's a different. It has some of the same content, but Kendrick and Pusha are two very different artists, and they approach their verses in a different way. Like, Pusha dissed Dennis Graham. Monkey suit, Dennis, you parade him. Like, that was crazy. Like, he dissed his dad. Like, Kendrick dissed his dad too, but saying basically, you dropped the ball on how you raised him. And I was like, man, if Drake was a decent rapper, this thing would be so much closer. They're just yelling shit at each other. In terms of, once Kendrick Lamar turned the whole, pedophile rape thing into basically a danceable joint, he's minimizing it at that point. Like, Not Like Us, he basically turned it into a game. And now people are memeing it, laughing at this dude. And it's funny. It's creating some really good stuff. But, personally, my issue with Kendrick Lamar, and it has been this way for a couple of years, why I stopped listening to him. In about 2015, 2016, in those 2 years, Kendrick Lamar blew up out of nowhere. I mean, he just went from a guy who was kind of bubbling. He was doing okay. And then he went through the roof. Two things happened. One, I believe it was in 2015, the Black Lives Matter protest happened, and his song All Right became the unofficial anthem for Black Lives Matter. The next year, He is named as one of Barack Obama's favorite rappers. All of a sudden, Kendrick Lamar is winning tons of Grammys. You know, in this beef, he's the voice of the culture, right? He's saying it ain't just me. This is what the culture feels. Basically, everybody feels this way. So when he called Drake a weirdo, talking about him being predatory with young women, appealing a little bit to the race politics, calling him a culture vulture, all that stuff, he's basically saying, I'm speaking for the culture. And he got that cachet from the Black Lives Matter stuff. So that should be your angle. If you're Drake, you should say, okay, well, you were basically the voice of BLM. Where did that money go that you guys helped build? Did they build a school? No. Why aren't you dissing Patrice Cullors? Why are you coming after me? Why aren't you dissing all these other Black Lives Matter money thieves? Why are you coming after me? That should have been your angle. That could have been an angle you could have used. But I felt personally that Kendrick Lamar was co-opted back then with the whole Black Lives Matter stuff. I felt like he was contaminated. All right. And I was like, okay. I felt the same way about Killer Mike. I probably talked about Killer Mike's on this channel too. If you've heard this, I'm sorry, but it's for people who haven't heard it. Killer Mike is a really good MC. I was a big fan of Killer Mike. Killer Mike does an interview with Coleon Noir. Coleon Noir is a big, Second Amendment rights advocate. They do a sit-down interview where Killer Mike has talked about his love of the Second Amendment and, how he's got guns in his house and all this kind of stuff, and how he would never support gun control. He doesn't support gun control. Coleon Noir, at the time, was working for the NRA, the National Rifle Association. Once that interview goes out, all the black liberals who are watching very closely at everything you say and do find out that Killer Mike is pro-gun, anti-gun control, and is basically like saying to his kids, you guys can't be anti-gun around here. I got guns. It is what it is. And basically the looming threat of, now I should have to also explain, Killer Mike started doing some albums with EP, Run the Jewels, right? These are critically acclaimed albums, and they're being used in like Black Panther trailers. So these movies are big. Once that looming threat of the black liberals getting mad at him happened, Killer Mike backed off of it. Oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know he was going to use that way. And I lost all respect for Killer Mike after that. I don't know if I listened to another Killer Mike album after that. And it's not because he doesn't believe in what I believe in. That doesn't matter. I just don't want to listen to a controlled artist. Like, I don't understand if you guys get that. He was compromised at that point. And I felt like since he was compromised, I didn't want anything to do with his artistry. Now his politics has to go one way. And you started seeing he started making songs about Ronald Reagan. It's like Ronald Reagan's been dead for 30 years. Why are you making songs about Ronald Reagan? He's been dead forever. Now recently he's getting a bunch of Grammys and stuff, which is what I mean by I don't listen to co-opted artists. Killer Mike, really good rapper. I won't say that he's not, but he's co-opted. He bent the knee. When the pressure came, he bent the knee. And I've noticed that Kendrick Lamar has been remarkably on code with pretty much everything. Since he got that Obama stamp of approval, whatever it is, abortion, trannies, whatever, Kendrick Lamar is like, yeah, I'll rap about that. Sure, I'll do a song with Taylor Swift, which I don't really care about that. I mean, rappers have always done songs like pop stars or whatever, you know. But you notice things, you know. And if you were being, and look, it's not about politics. It's about honesty. It's about honesty. It's like, can you really trust somebody who doesn't say things that piss people off? If you agree with 99% of what everybody says, that person is probably co-opted. I can tell you that right now. Kendrick Lamar has not said anything in a rap song to piss people off in a long time. In a long time. And you try to tell me how many people are listening to this guy and nobody is upset about anything he's saying? His politics are always on point. Always. Always very progressive. I'm like, not no. Okay. All right. I guess him doing a song with Kodak Black agitated some people. But on the same song, he was talking about how his auntie is a man or some shit, right? So, not on the same song, but on the same album. So there we go. I'm on a tip where I'm just kind of like, a lot of conservative media are mad because it's gotten racial. And to me, it shouldn't be racial because Drake is mixed, Kendrick's kids are mixed, J. Cole is mixed, Kanye's kids are mixed. Alchemist, who produced Meet the Grams, is white. Kendrick Lamar, one of his favorite rappers, is Eminem, who is white and has made racist comments. Well, he called somebody a nigger. We shouldn't be talking about the race issue. But, then the DJ Vlad stuff happened and it became almost completely a race issue. Kendrick can't control what his fans say. He can't control everybody. But he played into it, and Not Like Us plays into it. He called Drake a colonizer. Now the interesting bit is there's a clip of Young Thug running around. He was on the Breakfast Club and he was talking about, the reason why Drake is so popular is because Drake works with everybody. And Kendrick recontextualized that. Young Thug is saying, hey, he's trying to help, brothers by doing songs with them and bringing him on his album or going on theirs. He shows love to everybody. So that's why, all of these rappers fuck with Drake. Kendrick is basically saying, like, these niggas are your slaves. You take stuff from them. And people now are like, Kendrick's right. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know the nature of that. But it shouldn't be a racial thing. The fact that Drake is a tragic mulatto or whatever is always going to be a part of his life story because he is mixed and he was raised by his Jewish mama in Toronto. And Drake has been but I give Drake credit. He did a really good job boosting up battle rap. I really appreciate what he did for that culture, for that part of the culture. A lot of people paid more attention to like the smack stuff and everything when they moved to caffeine because Drake was involved. So he should get a lot of credit for that, but he doesn't. They look at him like a culture vulture. If he invests even a little bit of time in something, and only thing he gets out of it is clout, the clout is enough for you to call him a culture vulture. DJ Vlad is another one in that situation. DJ Vlad, you know, he does these interviews like these old gangsters and stuff like that. Most people wouldn't even be talking to these folks. They don't really care. DJ Vlad invests in people telling their own stories on his platform. These folks have decided they're going to destroy him because he's white for almost no other reason. He's asking incriminating questions. Like he's talking to grown men. He's not, investigating any homicides or anything like that. He's asking them about stories that are in the media, things that are happening, things that have been reported on. Whether these things are true or false, or can you explain this or explain this situation? It's an interview. I just don't get why we're talking about the race issue anyway. Half these motherfuckers got mixed kids. You know, like like almost all these people with mixed kids running around here. Y'all talking about race issues? Like who really don't care? The bid says, doesn't Kendrick's verse on Meet the Grams to Adonis and the racist angle? Kendrick tells Adonis that he's a black king. Yeah, I mean, because it's obviously true. At the same time, he's talking about Drake not being black enough, but that's in Drake's upbringing that he's discussing here. But again, Kendrick is being hypocritical. And Euphoria, he talked about he wishes Drake nothing but success. At the same time, he thinks the guy's a pedophile. You know what I'm saying? Like there's hypocrisy there. There's going to be enough hypocrisy if we talk more. You know, I don't really trust DJ Vlad. I mean, to be quite honest, I listen to the things where there's certain people. Like if there's certain people that I'm interested in, I'll listen to them talk. But for the most part, I stay away from DJ Vlad interviews. Like when I found out about when Ali of the Saint Lunatics claimed that he wrote the entirety of Nelly's album, I listened to that because I was like, "What? What you mean?" So I listened to that, and there's occasionally some interview like that I'll listen to, or if it's like an old school artist or something, I may listen to clips or something. But I don't really go too deep into it. But all in all, you are in control of how much information you give up when it comes to. And DJ Vlad, I look at it the same way as like wrestling shoot interviews. You are in control of the narrative. He's asking you questions, but you're in control of how much of that stuff you give up. You know, you could kayfabe DJ Vlad if you want to. Some people have kayfabe them. It is what it is. You don't have to listen to that crap. You know, the bid says Drake takes or took. I don't know what that Tentacion, Marconin, JB, Block Boy, Party Next Door. Drake isn't helping these guys. He was using their new flows and styles to shine himself up. Yeah, that's something that Jay-Z does. Jay-Z did that too. Jay-Z did that too. Jay-Z was very influenced by Young Chris. Um, Funny how that worked out. But but I mean, it happens. It happens. I don't doubt it. I don't know enough about those guys, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. When you come out with something new, people do bite. That's why biting used to be damn near a federal offense in hip hop. You know, because people are upset that you're stealing something that could make them money. But I'm not familiar enough with Drake and all of these people that you're talking about. Uh, and sometimes guys do get their shit bit, and that's it for them. There's nothing you can do. I felt the same way, and I know a lot of people about going to kind of be mad at me about this. Is when E40 jumped on the hyphy train, right? And the hyphy stuff was for the young boys. Mr. Fab and all of them was about to come out with that. And then E40 did like 3 double albums full of hyphy shit and basically took over the whole goddamn wave, and it never really blew up because E40 took it over. You know, it went from he's gonna help these young boys get on to basically it became, oh, that's the E40 thing, and very few other guys was able to get on afterwards. You know, so and that's just kind of how it is, man. It's unfortunate, but yeah, um, big fish eat little fish. When Drake got to a certain point, I could see him stealing shit from people. I would imagine a lot of artists do. But I was very entertained by all of this stuff. It's really incredible, if you ask me. David says Drake put these type of guys on his albums and then takes their shine. Then these guys are never heard from again. That's unfortunate. That sucks. That sucks. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen a lot. You know, sometimes it's, Drake has stolen your thing and does it just a little bit better than you or a little bit different. Sometimes you just ain't got enough juice. Sometimes you're better off as being one of his ghostwriters or something like that. You know? So I don't know. I would hope these guys aren't just sitting around broke. The Biz says, Mongo, as a student of this, have you ever seen someone do what Drake did by dropping directly after? I thought that was genius. It goes to show that he was prepared. No, I've never seen anything like that before. And it's almost never been possible until now. It was virtually impossible for you to drop a diss record almost immediately in response to a diss record, because for a long time you had to get it to a DJ or you had to get on the radio or something like that. Now with this streaming stuff, guys can put it out themselves, and that's exactly what happened. It was a chess move. Soon as Drake moved that piece, Kendrick was right there. And I think that is what put a lot of people in a really crazy headspace, because they're saying, man, this dude ain't fucking around. He locked in. People were counting him out. It was just, again, it's almost the exact same thing with Nas. When Takeover happened, there was no immediate response from Nas. And because when Takeover, the original version of Takeover came out, Nas responded to that with a freestyle. And then the official version came out, and Nas didn't respond until his album came out. So people thought he's not going to respond. It's over. He didn't do a freestyle again. He's just going to take the L and move on. And then Ether happened. And then Jay-Z didn't even bother to wait for his next album. He tried to drop a freestyle immediately afterwards. And it was, for starters, it wasn't really all that good. Secondly, it was mean and didn't seem to do too much in the way of helping his case in terms of him being a better rapper. Kendrick also removed the copyright, so all these YouTube guys and podcasters can profit from breaking down this again. Yeah, that's great PR right there. That's a good public relations move. That just gets people on your side. It doesn't make the bars better, but he's already got the bars. Now he's going for hearts and minds. That's an interesting bit. He's going for hearts and minds. Metro Boomin did a crazy tweet storm in the middle of the night when, what was this, maybe yesterday, today, or something like that, where he posted the cease and desist for a like that. He posted it after Drake denied it. I guess he was catching up on the disses. He posted the cease and desist. It wasn't directly from Drake, but it was probably like from somebody in his camp. He posted the picture with Drake and like Karl Malone and a bunch of other stuff and it seemed like he was the guy who pushed the button and decided, yeah, it's time for Drake to get up out of here. It was wild. It was wild. Kanye jumping in it, it seemed crazy. Like Rick Ross jumping in it. It's like Drake had all these enemies, and part of it was because he was on the top of the rap game. That was part of it. Everybody wanted to be at the top, you know. Everybody think they're the best. Everybody want to sell the most. But also, Drake's ego got out of control. You know, his ego was crazy, and he's doing suspect things like painting his fingernails and got barrettes in his hair and stuff. Like, I mean, it took me a while to even talk about that, but I was like, man, he's a completely different person than when I first saw him. He's so awkward. You know, he's just such an awkward dude. And I didn't know he had such a polished internet team either. You know, yes, I listened to the diss beat, which is hilarious. Uh, it's a hilarious it's a hilarious thing, man. It's really funny. Uh, like they memeing Drake crazy. I don't know what I don't know what he's doing. Like he's on Instagram responding to stuff, and I'm like, bro, you out here getting cooked and being called a pedo. That crip walk into a song that's calling you a pedophile. I don't know what you can do at this point. You know, um, sheesh, sheesh. Like it's I don't get it. Like that's crazy right there. That's nutty. Um, but what Drake does is the same thing I've seen Jay Z do it. He's the number one guy I've seen do. I've seen Diddy do it too, but Jay Z is number one with that. You know, you just jump on somebody else's wave and roll with it. You know, yeah, he's basically just gonna put these things out. He's gonna basically put out a bunch of remixes of people dissing Drake. He's gonna retweet them and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he's gonna give anybody a free beat. If J. Cole would have stayed in the beef with Drake, have fared better. Well, I guess you're assuming that Drake and J. Cole would have been on the same side. And I think even if they were, I don't think so. I mean, J. Cole is not a battle rapper. Like these guys today are kind of they're a little bit more conscious. They're less street oriented than rappers used to be. I don't sense a lot of the hunger and a lot of the aggression. Like I'm getting that out of Kendrick. I'm not getting it out of Drake. I'm not because he doesn't have it clearly, and I don't get it out of J Cole either. You know, he's another mixed dude. you know, so it's an interesting situation. I think he needed some help for sure, which is why I'm surprised they haven't gone to the cruise yet. Usually in battle raps, the crews would get involved eventually. You know, there would be like random rapper X would jump in and with a diss record to help out. Usually, and that would keep the fans happy. You know, Beanie Siegel and Jadakiss are mad at each other, but hey, Styles P and Freeway are going to jump in it. Young Chris is going to jump in it. You know, Sheik is going to jump in it, and that ought to keep us interested until Beanie Siegel and Freeway until Jadakiss go back at each other. You know, but it's not looking like the crews are clashing here. This is just personal between these two guys, and they're going to lock each other in a cage and go at it. And but it seems like the referee is waving it off as Kendrick is just hammer fisting Drake in the dome piece, and has been doing so for 4 days. And I know J Cole getting a lot of sleep. You know, he should be as long as he's not out there calling a ceasefire. he should he should be all right. Um, I just think that it needed to happen. If these guys been that mad at each other for this long, they need to go ahead and just get it done. You know, this needed to happen. Is it going to damage Drake's career? Yes. Hell, the story of Adidon damaged his career, damaged his reputation. The issue is he's such a blank slate that nobody cares. And because the radio loves him, nobody cares. He'll find more artists to help him write records and he'll bounce right back. I mean, losing the Nas didn't hurt Jay-Z at all. Didn't hurt him at all. He just moves right on. He says it's surprising that Drake even asked Kendrick for a feature, know how they felt about each other. Yeah, that's and Kendrick himself said that too, that he was surprised about that request. You know, because apparently they've had heat for a while, and maybe that was Drake's, attempt to prevent the beef from happening. And it would have been nice if he'd have said that, and then maybe they could have deaded this thing after one or two diss records. If he'd have said, "Well, nigga, if you'd have took my call and jumped on the record, we wouldn't be going through this." But that's some real bitch shit to be mad about anyway. You know, that's some real stupid shit to get mad about anyway. I hate when dudes get mad because other dudes don't get in the song or other dudes don't do videos. It's like, come on, man. That's the stupidest thing in the world to get mad about. People are busy. The Biz says, Mongo, are you surprised that the West Coast is so solidified behind Kendrick? I was shocked how every major back. No, I'm not. Because of what I talked about earlier. He is the West Coast savior. You know? Part of what it was Kendrick's whole thing is that West Coast insecurity. He mentions it. Let me go back to my notes. How many songs did he mention the West Coast in? He mentioned it in Like That. He talked about the West Coast. He mentioned it in. I'm flicking through my paperwork. He mentioned it. I believe he mentioned it in Euphoria. He mentioned it in. I don't see it in Meet the Gram, so he probably didn't mention it there. And Not Like Us is 100% West Coast. You know, it was made specifically with the West Coast in mind. You know, the East Coast doesn't have that insecurity. The East Coast has always been, you know, either the boroughs or it's a dog eat dog kind of business. They don't really back each other like that. But the West Coast, they will galvanize behind whoever's supposed to be the chosen one. They'll get Snoop there. Snoop will be the one who will raise the arm of this youngster. Like, this is the new guy. He did it with Game. He did it with all of them, bro. He's gonna be the guy to give you the cosign. Him and Dre, and they have already done that for Kendrick. So, and Kendrick he's coming across like a guy who's standing up for the West Coast. You know, even though I don't know if Drake has a problem with the West Coast or whatever, and it's almost never a good idea to diss, the hometown boy and then go into his show because that is gonna get ugly. Um, Even if it wasn't about the Tupac AI thing, it's certainly gonna get ugly with Kendrick situation. I heard that in some places he's already getting booed in clubs. You know, hopefully it'll be full of his fans. The show will, so it's not like it's gonna be that bad. But I don't think he's gonna be able to get away with like doing disses. I don't think he's gonna be able to get away with like sometimes guys will go and try to perform the diss in the backyard of the artist. Like I don't think Drake is gonna go to Oakland and do Family Matters. I don't think he's gonna be able to get away with that. Not at this point. Not at this point. Do you think younger artists will less likely to collaborate with Drake since he's an alleged swag stealer and colonizer? No, because they want the clout. You know, when it comes with Jay Z, because that's the best person you can look at. People still wanted Jay Z on their records, even though they knew that Jay Z used to steal lines from people, steal his style from people, steal people's flows. People still did a song with him because he's Jay Z. You know, his name increases your reputation. And if you have a good song with him or whatever, or you have a good relationship with him, that makes business easier. You know, like Jay Z's in a very different situation now because he's a boss. So now he can, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down on some features or whatever. Drake maybe not be in that position yet, I don't think, but one day he might be. He might be the gateway between you and working with somebody that you want to work with. I think a lot of people will look at him and say, "Oh shit, he went through it." But at the end of the day, he's still Drake, and he might be a biter, he might be a swag thief, but ultimately, I I want the clout. He's getting booed in New York. Oh yeah, New York loves battles, so yeah, of course he's gonna get booed. He did so much for that culture, battle rapping in New York, and he's getting booed in New York. That's crazy. All right, I'm about to go back to the top of the comments. There was a lot of comments, and try to figure out which ones are. CP the trucker says, "Am I the only one who's super ambivalent about this?" Well, you might be. A lot of people, some people don't care. I know that I've seen a lot of people come out and say they don't care. To me, it's a great cultural moment. It's a great cultural issue. I'm always down to listen to diss records, even if I don't like the artists involved, because they're highly entertaining and the creativity of it can really be, interesting. I didn't listen to Rick Ross's diss record. I just don't like Rick Ross and I don't care. Kendrick brought me back to hip hop, says I'm him 24/7. Oh, that's pretty good. Drake gets carried by his production. Well, sound like a lot of rappers. Drake's Toronto mansion is listed on Google Maps as Kendrick's son's house, loved by Kendrick, in memory of Drake, Drake's toilet paper, Drizzy daughter's fun house, and Drizzy's glizzy. Ooh, what the hell? AJ3 says, I thought it started with Common dissing Drake, then it was Meek Mill and Pusha T. Maybe. This thing goes back pretty far. And I would have to be more familiar with Drake than I am to be able to tell you where this thing began. All I know is I know the control verse happened, and a bunch of people are saying, okay, Kendrick was, stoking the flames back then and nobody bit. And then, things just kind of devolved from there. But yeah, there's a lot of branches on that tree. I dare not follow. Tobias says, it's not a bad thing to make music for women. It's a bad thing to try to be a gangster afterwards. Like Chris Brown is respected and tough because good or evil, he is authentic. Speaking of which, Chris Brown put out a really good diss record on that kid from Migos. He killed that kid. I mean, he absolutely wrecked that Migos kid. That was great. Chris Brown is not a terrible rapper. I remember him doing a rap song. I believe it was Jay Mills. What was it? It was Green something. But Jay Mills is supposed to be like this really big battle rapper. He got smoked by Chris Brown in that joint. Chris Brown is not a terrible rapper at all. He's actually pretty good. Drake hasn't been good since 2016. It says the whole thing started with Drake taking Rocky and Kendrick on tour. They opened for Drake. Oh, so that's when this means this whole thing would have been long, long, long time ago. I'm talking maybe over a decade at this point. I don't understand why if he was cool with taking them on tour, why the hell are they beefing now? Didn't Nas say one of J. Cole's first singles was whack? I think so. I mean, a lot of J. Cole shit was whack though. His what was it? It's like a super exercise song or whatever that he made. It was whack. It was garbage. J. Cole, that first album, boy, it was okay, but Jesus Christ. Darren Miles says, let me tell you one thing about Drake's discography is terrible. The production and instrumental features carry him. Yeah, workout. It was trash. J. Cole, the nigga to run out the room with the bullets fly. Yeah, I mean, he is that dude on he's AZ and Belly. Like he sees the wolves coming, he ain't gonna tell you, he just gonna, go on about his business. you know, and that's very unfortunate. AJ3 says, really said that hip hop, much like wrestling, has no more heavyweights. It's really just lightweights and cruiserweights. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to actual skill and bars, Kendrick is a heavyweight for sure. But Drake is a different artist. This is not his lane. This is not his lane. Battling is not what he does. People want to like like Kendrick said himself, he liked Drake with the melodies. He don't like Drake when he act tough. A lot of people feel that way. People are like, keep singing and making people dance, and that's it. Call it a day. Like, get out of here with this tough shit. Get out of here trying to be, you know, something that you're not. And Drake wants to be a part of everything. And I guess he got gassed up from being in the battle rap culture. That's not who he is. It's not, what he's got going on. Weekend first 3 albums, bro, have a listen. It's good music. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Is Weekend gay? No, I'm not. I'm not gonna say that. Anyway, say what you will about J. Cole. He's the smartest person in this. He knew that he did not want to go out there and got out. Yeah. Um, I think that's gonna do a lot of damage to his career. He's gonna have to really just I don't know how he's going to be able to write lyrics this from this point forward and boast about his skill and ability and all this kind of stuff. He's gonna have to write he'll need like a half an album of explanations. Like he knew this was personal between these two guys and he didn't want to be involved with it. At that point, maybe people will give him a pass for not being like for not getting involved. You know, because folks will say like, okay, if you knew it was just these two guys and they got issues, and Kendrick, you ain't really got a problem with Kendrick, and Kendrick don't really got a problem with you, and so you felt like, okay, I felt goaded into dissing them, but I'm not going to. All right, um, still weak, but if you knew in your heart of hearts that it was really an issue between these two guys, then you can state that on record, and people might be able to give you a pass on it. That's just crazy. You think Snoop Dogg was informed before the AI thing dropped? I know Snoop had to be confused as fuck. Like, how do you do an AI version of a dude that's still alive? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's just insane. Why would you do that? Um, Kanye, who DeBiz hates, and Drake beef started when Drake pushed up on Kim after her and Kanye started to split. Ooh, oh, that's dirty baseball right there. That is dirty baseball. Kanye should beat him up. Somebody should beat him up. Oh yeah, Snoop been co-opted a long time. To be honest, what started the East Coast West Coast beef was actually an East Coast rapper by the name of Tim Dog. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he definitely like randomly dissed the West Coast pretty much out of nowhere. But they had that sort of attitude, you know, in terms of they were the little brother. They had that before that record came out, though. Like there was a lot of people talking about like magazine articles or different things like that. Didn't quite know how to take the style of like NWA or Ice T or whatever, and they were being, attacked, and they didn't like it. So, but yeah, that was pretty much the first time somebody spoke on it on record. The South was never petty. We just had something to say. Yeah, it's like one thing that I really enjoy about this is why I think hip hop needs to go back to being regional and very, very local. Not just because you have individual styles, but also that kind of stuff is important. Like when Drake came out and he's from Toronto, you don't know anything about Toronto. It's up to this guy to tell you, what is the culture up there? That's what NWA and Ice T when they came out, that's what they was talking about was the culture of South Central and Compton, Los Angeles, California. That's what they were about. That's what you learned when you listen to them. When you listen to like UGK, it's a culture of like Texas. Not exactly Houston, but Houston adjacent. When Houston started speaking for themselves in the terms of like Mike Jones and DJ Screw and all that kind of stuff, it took a while for people to get on because I hated that shit at first. It took a while, but you get it. You're like, okay, it's a car culture, so that's why the music is geared towards playing it in the ride. You have in the South, in the deep South, like Atlanta or Miami, strip clubs is the goal. In New York, it was always in the street, the tunnel. They have a battle culture, a competition culture. Who's harder? Who's got better lyrics? Those kind of things. That's the kind of stuff they was doing in New York. That's where you get when you have local artists doing a local style for your local culture. The West Coast was talking about gang banging because that's West Coast culture. You know, so that kind of stuff was what they were doing. When you get somebody pop up from a weird place, we want to know what it's like there. What are you guys, how do you guys dress? How do you guys talk? Like those kinds of things. Like, sure, people will start picking up, like when Shorty became a thing, Shorty, that kind of stuff get picked up and starts becoming national. You know, yeah, it happens. But you have local lingo, you have a local style, you have a local target market, strip clubs, cars, whatever, and you start learning more about it. People may even do local drugs, like sip and syrup, whatever. That's what hip hop culture was. And the South had their own little street culture. It took a while for it to really bloom because Outkast came out and they were like, okay, Southern playlistic Cadillac music, it kind of fit with the rest of hip hop. And then it got a little bit more eclectic into almost funkadelic kind of, realms. And it took for like T.I. and Jeezy. T.I. came first. He came in like 2000. And to truly take it and blow it up, you know, and you started seeing a lot more of the street culture of Atlanta. And Houston was shortly after that with like Slim Thug and Mike Jones and all that kind of stuff. And so you started seeing like really local cultures with local producers, local sound. New Orleans, the bounce style, sounds that other people are not making, you know, beats by the pound, Manny Fresh, completely different from anything else that was happening. That's what hip hop is. That's when you got something, you know? That's what hip hop should be. It shouldn't be nigga from New York rapping on Southern style beats, which is what it is now. And a lot of people criticize ASAP Rocky for that because he came out, he's from New York, and he's rapping on like chopped and screwed beats. Or oh fuck, what was the name of the guy who did Peso and Castle? And the beats are very slow, you know, and a lot of it's like he's doing some voice manipulation on there and stuff like that. Like people didn't like it because it was very southern tinged. But he was a young guy, and the South had taken over hip hop, and pretty much that's what he listened to. And people was like really agitated. I remember that too. People started thinking that ASAP Rocky was basically, an appropriator. He's taking Southern hip hop style and trying to mix it with New York, especially at the same time when Joey Badass is out doing traditional New York hip hop, boom bap, you know. And I remember them two guys being peers. I like both of them for different reasons, but that's why you need to have local flavor. Somebody like Drake being able to come in, steal your shit, and take it and run with it. That could always happen. But if you got local flavor, there's always going to be somebody there to take it to the next level. Even if somebody decided to jump on your wave and try to ride it, there's still going to be other people there who are going to be able to give people the authentic Atlanta, the authentic New Orleans, the authentic Miami, or whatever. The problem nowadays is everything is becoming more generic. You know, I wish, like when Kendrick Lamar did the DJ Mustard "Not Like Us" beat, that's really what got people woke. They was like, "Oh shit, he's doing traditional West Coast stuff. This is local. This is for us. This is not for those black liberals on college campuses. That's what like Euphoria is for. His traditional audience. Overeducated black liberals that's on college campuses. But Not Like Us is for the hood of Compton. The hood for like South Central or whatever. You know? That's what galvanized these people. And that's why, somebody like Future can be around forever because he knows his sound. He knows where his target market is, and he keeps hitting it. It doesn't matter if he never goes number one. He's always going to be locally famous because he does local shit. He's grounded. He's rooted. That's a better word. He's rooted. And Drake does not have roots. And that makes him an easy target for that whole colonizer, accusation. He doesn't have any fucking roots. He's from Toronto, and it's not like he was raised somewhere else. Like the DOC, very famous rapper, used to ghostwrite for Dr. Dre, one of the ghostwriters for the NWA, Eazy-E and all of them. He's from Dallas. He moves to Los Angeles, and he's ingratiated in that culture for a while. And now he's writing lyrics about the culture that he lives in. It's not like, they met him on tour or something like that. And they're like, I don't know shit about Dallas. And he's trying to write rhymes for dudes from California. He was already in that culture. He was rooted in that culture. He's not from there, but he's rooted there. DJ Premier is the king of boom bap rap. He's from the South. But he's lived in New York, made his name in New York. He's got a reputation in New York. It is what it is. Drake didn't have that. He came and jumped on waves, and it worked. He didn't actually have to be himself. He didn't actually have to, from scratch, put, Toronto on the map. As far as I know, there is still no other famous rappers from Toronto other than Drake. If he had put on a local sound, there might be 5 or 6 other local rappers other than Drake. Notice when T.I. and all those guys started really hitting the streets of Atlanta, you started seeing more street-based rappers come out from Atlanta coming out. Same thing with New Orleans. Once No Limit really took off, they opened the door for Cash Money. Once Nelly did his thing, that allowed for like Chingy and all these other guys to come out. That's what happens when you have local artists and one guy manages to break through. If everything is national, it's not going to work. And it's very unfortunate, but that's how we stuck with it today. The South has the most relevant rappers currently. Well, I believe that. New York, Atlanta, and Compton will always be hip hop. Yeah, those are the if there was 3 trees of hip hop, like 3 pillars, New York, Atlanta, and Compton would be it. Because they each one of them created something that was extremely special. And not to denigrate like my own city, like Detroit or like Memphis or Philly, but a lot of them tend to migrate more towards a certain sound. Like for a long time, the Detroit sound migrated towards the West. And almost everybody rapped like they was Too Short, and which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it was. You know, in like Memphis, they very pushing a lot towards like traditional Southern hip hop. Same thing with Houston. It's different, but it's traditional Southern hip hop. Philly, is basically East Coast hip hop. It's in the shadow of New York. So it's always gonna be that way. Absolutely, they're all part of the same glorious tree. All right. Degenerate Shiring Guy says, I would like to point out that New York likes to talk down on LA always until this day, but yet they have an identity crisis for the better part of a decade. Yeah, New York got ruined after the big battle of like the early 2000s. Once like Nas and Jay-Z clashed and a bunch of dudes got into like a lot of battles, like 50 Cent came in and pretty much wrecked everything. There was almost no unity in New York from that point. You know, they pretty much lost their identity, and a lot of their newer artists started being tinged from the South. I think I just talked about this, like ASAP Rocky and stuff like that. But there were some young boys, again, Joey Badass. I think Benny the Butcher and all those guys are like more traditional boom bap guys now. But yeah, they got ruined. New York got ruined with all the battle culture and stuff that they had going on up there. Yeah. Yeah, 50 Cent didn't help nobody. He took all the money and ran. He didn't really put nobody on. He tried to put on, Lloyd Banks, but that punchline shit didn't stick, and then he mumbles too much. I know a lot of people really like Lloyd Banks. I don't like his voice, and I don't like his like singles and shit. You can be able to rap, but you got to be able to play on the radio too. You got to be easily digestible. You know, I think Lloyd Banks' lips was too heavy for his face, and he mumbled too much. I think the only rapper from Toronto that got big was the guy who made that Street Fighter rap song. Brother, I have no idea what you're talking about. Kendrick's Atlanta verse on "Not Like Us" is pretty damning. 2 Chainz already tweeted about it. Yeah, I mean that hurts some feelings, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to start probably trying to throw Drake some bail. There's going to be some people who are going to try to start caping for him, because a lot of these guys, when you look at them, some of them I don't even know. So you're looking at it and saying these guys probably just trying to use Drake to get on, but Drake ended up using them. It's like it's supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship. 2 Chainz was on before Drake, but Migos, those guys came out after Drake. Lil Baby, he came out after Drake. So you could probably say that these guys were trying to work together, and Drake, ended up eating the lion's share of the meal. But those guys aren't like broke. Some of the other guys that y'all guys have mentioned might be fucked, but some of those other guys, they seem to be doing okay. They're not huge, but they're not like dead broke either. Why did it take this long for people to realize that Drake is a pedo and butt pumping Diddyite? I think that he was so popular nobody wanted to say it. And it sometimes it is not what's said, is who is saying it. If you were saying it, like you made a rap song, Low Key '07, you say, you know, you made Not Like Us about Drake. People would have thought you were just trying to get attention. You know, like there was a guy named NY Oil who made a song called, you should all get lynched, and it was a crazy song. It was pretty much the only song he's ever known for, and he came out talking about a bunch of coon rappers who should all get lynched, and he mentioned Nas in the song too, which is why it ended up being so popular. He was like, Nas should get lynched or whatever, and people didn't take that shit seriously. Even if the content was sensible, people looked at it and was like, "Yeah, get this nigga out of here. He just dissing to get on," because he was following the 50 Cent formula. Like you need some hits first, and then you can start criticizing people. You need to get on first. But most people they was using the Drake to get on, and Drake is so popular, you don't want to be seen as being a hater, so you don't say anything. And then enough people don't say anything, and then you just this is what you get. Darren Miles says, and that's why I do not feel bad that Drake's BM did porn and that nigga tried to hide her. Oof. Yeah, he got that Kanye issue where he's obsessed with like pornography and stuff. Memphis with the dark horror sound. Well, yeah, Detroit had that too for a little while. New York also did that a little bit with the horrorcore stuff. Yeah, Drake is definitely more poppy. Drake is he's a dirty Mac for sure. You know, said Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole are all heavyweights. The issue is that Kendrick is a heavyweight that is also at heart a battle rapper. He wants that no Vaseline hit 'em up battle. I guess in terms of popularity, they would be considered heavyweights, but I don't look at it in terms from skill level. You know, I don't think J. Cole is a great lyricist. Um, Drake, again, I've been sitting here talking this whole time about him being not like Drake. ASAP Rocky said later that he was not going to sign to Drake and that he felt Drake wanted most of his songs for Drake's own album. Oof. Well, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. I've heard that one before. Uh, um, y'all talking about something I don't know. David says he hoped Drake is safe in Oakland because that would be awful. I think that he's going to be all right. Look, that show is whoever is putting that show on is going to make sure Drake is okay. That's going to be a very profitable show for that guy. So he's not going to screw it up and let the hoodlums get their hands on Drake. They might do something stupid to like his trailer or something. They might like spray paint it or shoot at it, but I wouldn't suggest, you know, people take it that far, but you never can tell. Did you see the video of Rick Ross playing Not Like Us while calling Drake a chomo? I've seen quite a few videos of Rick Ross laughing at Drake, so it's hard to tell which one. I don't know who Tamar Braxton is. Uh, Drake just had Yeet on his last album. He just did a remix of Four Bats. Drake is not stopping. He can't. He's 37 and still getting money from the TikTok hip hop crowd. Yeah, his career is not gonna be that damaged in any way. This is embarrassing, but that's pretty much the end of that. You know, he's always gonna be getting a little embarrassed, but you know, it is what it is. When you're Drake, he's already been embarrassed. Pusha T peeled his scalp back, and people still laugh at him about it, but ultimately, the people who are laughing at him probably got his songs on their Spotify. I only listen to like 4 songs, bro. But yeah, you still listening to the shit. Rick Ross should sit it out, period. But I'm not gonna say like he's terrible or anything like that, but Rick Ross has never been in a fight for his life like this. All the little beefs Rick Ross has been involved with, none of them have gotten to this point. This is a dog fight. And you only get to this point when it's something personal between the two parties. And it's been a long time since a rap beef has been this personal. It's been maybe since Nas and Jay-Z that it's been this personal. This is not just two guys taking shots at each other on record and they're dissing each other back and forth. No, like these guys genuinely don't like each other. They genuinely are accusing each other of being the worst possible people. This is in some ways worse than Jay-Z and Nas. Jay-Z never said Nas was a pedo. Like that was, Jay-Z never said that Nas beat Carmen. He said he was a lame and he fucked Carmen. That was pretty much it. Nas called Jay-Z a misogynist, but that was as pert and call him a Tybo hoe. you know, that was about it. You know, you know, this thing is getting ugly. And some of it is gossip. I heard this, I heard that, and we don't know how much of this shit is going to be some bullshit at the end of the day. Who knows? In 4 days or whatever, we might find out that 90% of this shit is lies, and none of it matters. But it's entertaining for right now. Oh yeah, he's in a Chinese finger trap. If we're being honest, academics was complaining about this. I don't like academics; they're hamster looking motherfucker. In any event, he was complaining about, like, how do you respond to a dude calling you a pedo outside of saying basically that you didn't do it. And how do you respond without mentioning it? It's like you can't. But see, here's the thing. Kendrick told him not to take it personal. Don't do that. Don't go that far. And now he put himself in this Chinese finger trap. He got to figure it out. That's the thing about being in a chess game. Once you make a fatal mistake and you lose that queen or you lose that important piece, you got to figure it out from there. Like, you came back out, you're already committed. So what are you going to do? If you were a snake and you tried to bite somebody and you leapt at them and they caught you in midair, you can't take it back. You gotta take what's coming with you, And this guy, he tried it, and that's why I said, like, it was a perfect situation with the Drake and Kendrick thing, because the idea that Kendrick dropped Mr. Morale and a lot of people wasn't really feeling it, and I didn't like it. I did a review and I didn't like it, and it's almost exactly like when Jay-Z saw Nas make Nostradamus, and a bunch of people didn't like Nostradamus. He figured, this nigga falling off, I got him. Like, he falling off, I got him. No, you ain't do nothing but wake him up. You pissed him off, which is motivational. And sometimes a guy can be made soft by his own success, And Kendrick apparently, it didn't quite work out the way that he wanted it to. It's crazy that Drake called himself the new Michael Jackson and then got caught as an allegation. Isn't that crazy? Crazy how that worked, huh? Called himself the new Michael Jackson and ended up getting called a pedo. That's sick. Oh, that's sick. Oh, for me, it would have been great if they'd have just been trying to figure out who the better rapper is, which I think is what Kendrick wanted. Um, it's, but now they in that dog fight, bro. It's over. They're in airplanes, but trying to shoot each other down, bro. It's beyond serious at this point. Somebody should probably get sued, or somebody gonna fight. So I don't know what they're gonna do. They sick in the head at this point. I think the crazy thing is, if enough time passes that Drake responds, Kendrick is going to drop another song. It's been so much time that he's got more time to have created more songs. So if he was, let's say Drake dropped something, then Kendrick could just drop something again, because it's been so long, and that Kendrick probably made these things in bunches. Like, I can tell, like, there's these 3 of these tracks were made at pretty much the same time, And then while you were digesting those, he was making more, because he's an MC. This is what he does. He probably got 100 fucking rhymes calling this guy a pedo. Now, that A minor thing is crazy. Why would you say that on a song? It's sick. You're trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. It's sick. That's sick. That's him dancing around Drake. He's making fun of this dude. Drake is no competition. And this was clear when Euphoria came out. And it was clear then that Drake was no competition. It was Drake. It was actually from the beginning. You should have known Drake wasn't going to be no competition. But Euphoria should have ended it. That's a great record. Euphoria is fantastic. Not Like Us is right on the same level, but Euphoria is great. I listened to Euphoria 100 times. I love that song. It's really good. Not Like Us, I like that too. I like the vibe of it. It's very good. Family Matters, good record. You know, good diss record, battle record, addressing all of his enemies. But it wasn't enough. Nobody believed it. Nobody believed the allegations within it. You know, not the one he built it around. He built it around a domestic violence allegation. He's going to have to do a little bit better than that, and I don't think he can. I think that was it. Yeah, that woke college professor is an idiot. You know, told Vlad stay out of black people's business, like you in like Harvard. You know, like get out of white people's colleges. Go work at uh, Grambling or something. Which is worse, lukewarm response from Drake or Drake letting it die out? At this point, it's worse if he responds because Kendrick just going to respond to his response and it's going to keep it going. Um, if he doesn't respond, and look, at this point, I don't think Drake can win unless he actually brings some legitimate proof of something. I don't think Drake can pull himself out of the hole that he's been dug into. I think it's over. You know, like it's that Meet the Grams was a 10-8 round, right? Euphoria to me is a 10-8 round. This is a 10-8 round. You can't dig your way out of this. They're Not Like Us is a 10-8 round. I don't know what he can say that's going to what beat he can use, what he can say, or what he can do to get out of this situation. That's the thing I'm tripping on. Like, usually there's an angle, that you can play. He's probably gonna have to try to cop police. And that's gonna end up being the Jay-Z situation where, Blueprint 2, he's gonna be about, how I helped all these people, because they calling me a racist and a colonizer. Oh, I helped all of these rappers, I did all this stuff for all these people, blah, 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 blah. Everybody should love Drizzy Drake, Six God, blah, 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 blah. And people are gonna be like, boo, and that's gonna be the end of it. So that's probably his best option, is to try to cop a plea. But it's over in terms of like Kendrick basically challenged him on Euphoria to a face-to-face battle. He could call for that. He could say, "Little nigga, let's do it for charity. You and me, 3 rounds, 3 5-minute rounds. Let's get it." Maybe Kendrick will bite on that. maybe he can call smack and say, let's do something. It's over at this point. On wax, he ain't got no chance. It's over. And he'd really probably get 8 in a acapella battle, for God's sake. He said letting it die out is what he did with Pusha T. I'm not for that again. I don't think he has a choice. I honestly don't think he got a choice. It's like, what can he say and what can he do? When you're sitting back and you're analyzing the battle, I can tell you Drake built this entire thing around the domestic violence. People did not believe it. His big punch whiffed and he got knocked down. It's a 10-8 round. So now he threw his best punch and it didn't work. So now what do you do? Do he start all over again? You start from scratch? Like, we're going to try to pretend like this is the first diss record now? I don't know. You're going to try a different angle? Maybe. Maybe he jumps back on there and he tries a different angle. But I don't see how he can pull himself out of this. It's like the story of Adidon all over again. There was no response to that because there were elements of it that were so true that he just had to just walk away from it. Here, because he's being accused of being a pedo and having pedophiles and sex offenders in his crew, his only response is to probably fire a bunch of dudes and then try to walk away from it. Because I don't see what else he can do. I don't see what else he can do. Drake is not the new Michael Jackson, more like the R. Kelly. Yeah, see, the thing is, Kendrick played the long game. He played the long game. It was clear that Drake was like when he wrote his first couple, that he was baiting Kendrick into responding, Push Ups and Tailor Made. He was baiting Kendrick into responding because again, he thought he had a knockout punch, but it whiffed, and it was a great record. Family Matters is great, but not enough. It wasn't enough. Kendrick laid off for 3 weeks. We don't know what he did in those 3 weeks. Some of those songs were definitely made at the same time. He might have more made at the same time from different producers with a different sound. And then he's going to write new shit. If Drake says something that strikes a chord with him and forces him to write something new, it's going to be crazy. He's going to look like a fucking mutant who's sitting there waiting for Drake to say something and then killing him every single time. It makes it worse if he keeps responding and Kendrick keeps killing him. Unless he's got something, I'm talking a cannon on the way, it's over. And he shouldn't even bother. He probably have to pull the 50 Cent and, tell the label to push his album back. Like I'm gonna pull something from your album budget or something like that. It's just no way for him to get out of this. It's over. It's unfortunate too, but he can't win. The best he can do is draw at this point. But I think you just wave the white flag and go home, dog. Just go home. The internet is mad at you. Let it ride out. If you drop an album, everybody might like it. You'll go back to being able to perform in the club. You'll go back to being able to, meme online. But that Kendrick thing will still linger. He'll be 0-2 in battles at that point. And these are like high profile battles too. These aren't like, bullshit back and forth. Yeah, he's sitting there waiting for this dude, man. He might as well just give it up. I would make Kendrick waste his time. He's probably sitting in that apartment, seething, writing records. I'd be like, I'm not responding to this nigga no more, dog. All that time he's sitting, and he might still release the fucking records anyway, even if you don't respond. So you never know. You're just in a tough situation. You might not respond. He might keep dissing you because fuck you. Why? I'm not wasting my time. So, and I like that about Kendrick though. He's teasing him on record. He's not memeing him at all. He dropped Not Like Us to fuck with him, and that was it. Now he's daring Drake to respond. And there's nothing he can say outside of the pedophile shit ain't true. Or, it was all fake and we fed you bad information. Niggas gonna laugh at that. They gonna be like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Kendrick is like Drake just dropped. What did he drop? What could he have possibly done? What would be the purpose of that? Let me go to Twitter and see if this is what's going on here. The only thing he could do is make an album with photos and everything. Anything he does at this point is waiting his time. Unless he absolutely kills this dude, he's wasting his time. He's wasting everybody's time, really. Boy, I don't see anything. Oh, Drake dropped a response record. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's see. Do I have to do a live response to this? I don't think it would. Jesus. I don't want to look. I don't want to listen to that guy. I'm not listening to academics. Is the record out so I can find it? Because I'll listen to it, but I don't want to. I don't want to sit here. I don't want to get like copyright struck and nothing like that. Whoa. It's on YouTube. Oh, okay. So it's on YouTube. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. The Heart Part 6. I'll be back. All right. I'll listen to about 40 seconds of it. He basically asking for proof so far, saying that the people he getting the information from are clowns. All right. So he's denying everything, which is pretty obvious. Um, so, eh. People are mocking him under his video. This is this is crazy. This nigga insane, dog. Waiting for this moment, overcome with the desperation. We plotted for a weekend. He's saying that all the daughter stuff is fake, and that he was fed fake information. Oh boy. Oh boy. This nigga got 4 more minutes. This nigga got 4 minutes. I don't know what he's gonna do with these 4 minutes, but he needs to do something tremendous in these 4 minutes, or it's a waste of time. Because he already said it was fake. So what more could it be? You gotta learn. All right, so he's saying, why isn't Whitney denying it? Why, Dave Free did Heart and all this kind of stuff, but why isn't Whitney denying it? Uh, huh. It's a good question. It's a good question, but this is not satisfactory so far. He's got another 3 minutes of some change from my clock. How long is the song? I got this one here is 5 minutes and 26 seconds. He don't have a longer version of this, did he? Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. So I'm basically saying, like, I don't like this idea that, you know, she's not following him, so it's uh it's an issue. But he did say he hasn't seen his kids in 6 months. That's crazy because this part of Kendrick's character has been that he's been teaching his son morals and teaching him how to pray and all this kind of stuff. If he ain't seen them in 6 months, that's crazy. You know, they're probably blaming it on the mama, but that's nuts if he ain't seen his kid in 6 months. But so far, he's basically just saying that he fed him false information and that Kendrick is, not the father that he, is pretending to be. This is dumb. Let's get back to it.
Epstein angle was the shit I expected. TikTok videos you collected and dissected. Instead of being on some disdirect shit, you rather fucking grab your pen and misdirect shit. My mom came over today and I was like, mother, wait a second. That's that one record where you say you got molested. Oh, fuck me, I just made the whole connection. This about to get so depressing. This is trauma for your own confessions. This when your father leave you home alone with no protection, so neglected. That's why these pedophile raps and shit you're so obsessed with is so excessive.
Oh, whoa. Whoa, that was dark. He's saying that Kendrick was molested? Whoa. That's dark. That's also quite low. And that's one thing, like, Drake is not scared to go low. He's going low. This is a low ball right here, brother. This is a low ball right here, brother. It would explain why a nigga need therapy, that's for sure.
They're acting like it's so aggressive, but you just never know affection. I don't want to dish you anymore. This really got me second guessing. Touch My Body by Mariah Carey play, you probably start reflecting. I never been with no one underage, but now I understand why that's the angle that you really mess with. Just for clarity, I feel disgusted. I'm too respected. If I was fucking young girls, I promise I'd have been arrested. I'm way too famous for the shit you just suggested, but that's not the lesson. Clearly there's a deeper message. Deep cuts that never healed and now they got infected. Like if Dave really fucked your girl and got her pregnant. Talk about.
Oh boy. He just said he doesn't want to diss him anymore. So he didn't got the fight out of him. He took the fight out of him, that's for sure. Oh, boy. This is another 3 minutes of this. I figured he might go this route. I don't know about this whole molestation thing. This is kind of crazy. Like,
And resentment. Not sure how to ease the sentiment. This shit's too intimate. I'm praying you recover from both incidents. But you a piece of shit, so this shit really no coincidence. Drake is not a name that you don't see on them sex offender lists. Easy does it. You mentioned an A minor, but niggas gotta be sharp and tell the fingers who was it. You thought you left D flat, D major. I'll slit your throat with the razor and Rick Ross air like that one flight from Malaysia. I'm your baby mama screensaver. Only fucking with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Browns. I never look twice at no teenager. I'm a fucking hit maker, dog, not a peacemaker. Yeah, bullets that I'm stuffing in each chamber. Your ass in extreme danger. Stop buying views and buy comments. You may as well keep the paper. Shit you about to need for later. I give a fuck about your streaming data. You could drop 100 more records. I'll see you later. Yeah, maybe when you meet your maker. I don't want to fight with a woman beater. It feeds your nature. If you still bumping R. Kelly, you could thank the savior. Said if they deleted his music and your music is going to a hypocrite. I don't understand why these people praise you. Sounding like you said him commissary when he needs some paper. Album dropping soon. No wonder you turn to clout chase instead of doing hard labor.
Yeah, he's spiraling crazy at this point. He's slipping and falling. He's got 2 more minutes, and this thing ain't looking good. Oh boy. He said that Kendrick can respond as many times as he wants, and that was basically it. Uh, oh boy. Called him a woman beater again, saying that his wife don't deny it. Which is people are gonna ask some questions about that. Um, it's that's people are gonna ask questions about why his wife didn't deny this. Why Dave Free is not denying it. Nobody involved is denying this. And it's been out there for a little while, but people very rarely want to get involved with this kind of stuff, you know?